For the last decade, Spain has been one of Europe's most problematic economies. Whilst many European nations struggled after the 2008 housing bubble and COVID pandemic, Spain suffered particularly hard, taking 6 years to return to positive growth after the financial crash, and its GDP per capita, an indirect indicator of average income, has still not recovered. Average incomes in Spain were once in line with other large European economies, notably higher than France. However, as time has progressed, it has continued to fall behind its European counterparts, and since the financial crash, the average Spaniard has seen their income shrink by nearly 10%, whilst other nations have continued to grow. This is something which has made life for the average person much harder, especially as almost 52% of respondents in a poll by Spanish paper El País stated that they barely scraped by at the end of each month and had to draw from their savings or go into debt to pay bills. It's true that the economy has seen a positive recovery from the pandemic, but future projections look sluggish and many of the nation's underlying structural issues look likely to remain. High unemployment, both on average and for young individuals, has persisted above the European average, peaking at 23% in 2013. This has a detrimental effect on its citizens, not just in decreased incomes and consumption, but also on well-being, with low levels of persistent unemployment reducing the confidence of its citizens and their labour force participation. This is expected to remain above 11% in the coming years, as will high levels of public debt and low growth predictions, estimated to be around 1.7% in 2024. Whilst these are issues being faced by a number of developed European economies, they are particularly profound in Spain. Despite being an international hub for tourists, the southern European nation is fundamentally flawed. Before we explore some of these modern issues, it's worth taking a brief look into Spain's past to appreciate where this has originated from. Spain's 20th century economic journey, deeply influenced by the Spanish Civil War, experienced profound challenges. The war severely impacted the economy, leading to significant private investment losses and a divided economic landscape, resulting in a loss of resources. In the post-war era, under Francisco Franco's regime, Spain pursued autarky, striving for economic self-sufficiency. This period was marked by economic struggles, isolation, and a lagging GDP compared to Western Europe. The shift towards integration and modernization began in earnest in the 1950s. The 1953 Pact of Madrid with the US was a turning point, ushering in a period of economic aid and industrial growth, with Spain's GNP growing by about 5% annually, from 1953 to 1958. Despite this growth, the economy grappled with issues like inflation and bureaucratic inefficiencies. State-owned companies and foreign investments played a crucial role in revitalizing key industries. The late 1970s marked another significant transition as Spain moved towards democracy, amidst global challenges like the oil crisis and a heavy reliance on imported energy. The government, led by Felipe González, implemented austerity measures and labor reforms to stabilize the economy. Joining the European Economic Community in 1986 was a milestone, further propelling Spain into the European market and aiding in its economic expansion and modernization. However, the build-up to the 2008 financial crisis revealed underlying vulnerabilities in Spain's economy. The country experienced rapid growth in the early 2000s, fueled by a housing boom and easy credit. This over-reliance on the construction sector, coupled with risky lending practices, left Spain particularly exposed when the global financial crisis struck. The collapse of the housing market led to a sharp downturn in the economy, causing widespread job loss and a significant increase in government debt. If you would like to see more videos on national economies in Europe and worldwide, then make sure to subscribe to stay updated. The economic trajectory of Spain, particularly following the 2008 financial crisis, leads directly into the current challenges of its labour market, characterised by a persistently high unemployment rate. The crisis exposed weaknesses in Spain's economy, especially in the construction sector, seeing well over 1 million jobs lost in a 5-year period, leading to a significant increase in unemployment and government debt. This economic backdrop sets the stage for understanding Spain's contemporary labour market issues. Spain's labour market is heavily influenced by its regulatory environment, which imposes constraints on employers in various sectors, making it challenging to hire and fire employees. This situation is more pronounced in Spain compared to English-speaking OECD countries, as Spain, along with France and Italy, maintains higher levels of employment protection legislation. A defining feature of the Spanish labour market is its dual structure, heavily impacting immigrants and young, unskilled workers. Over 24% of the Spanish workforce is engaged in temporary contracts, a percentage significantly higher than in other OECD countries. This high rate of temporary employment has contributed to an average unemployment rate of 17.3% over the past 30 years, a figure notably higher than that of the EU 8 countries and the United States. Spanish labour market's rigidity is further compounded by inflexible wage structures, as businesses struggle to adjust wages to market conditions and high termination costs for regular work contracts, as businesses will take a more cautious approach to hiring when these are high. Both these decrease Spain's ability to adapt to changing economic conditions and reduce its global competitiveness compared to countries with more flexible markets, whilst also posing greater barriers to entry for younger workers. These factors have exacerbated Spain's unemployment challenges, particularly following the 2008 crash. Studies suggest that reducing firing costs and lessening the disparity between different types of employment contracts could have helped mitigate the unemployment spike. But despite labour market reforms in 2012, issues such as high hiring costs for regular contracts persist, leading to increased reliance on temporary contracts and involuntary part-time employment, rates of which exceed EU averages. Addressing these challenges requires reforms that simplify hiring and firing procedures for permanent contracts. There's growing support for moving away from temporary contracts towards a unified employment system to improve job opportunities for vulnerable groups like immigrants and low-skilled workers, something which is already starting to take place, as 2022 saw a significant increase in the amount of permanent contracts offered. Additionally, Spain's high social security tax burden on employers impacts wages and working hours, contributing to economic insecurity among workers in temporary positions. To create a more stable and productive workforce, it's crucial to implement reforms that bridge the gap between temporary and permanent employment in Spain. Spain's current labour market challenges, particularly the high unemployment rate, are intricately linked to its shortage of skills in key economic sectors. The country faces significant skill shortages in areas such as information technology, engineering, management, sales, shipping, and healthcare. This gap between the available jobs and the skilled workforce needed is a major obstacle to Spain's economic growth and innovation. Spain's IT sector is rapidly growing, leading to a high demand for skilled professionals in service and manufacturing areas. However, the country is facing a talent gap, as the current number of students, around 70,000 in university and vocational IT education, is insufficient to meet this demand. The challenge is further compounded by a shortage of candidates with a combination of technical skills and soft skills. Furthermore, Spain is contending with a broader issue known as the digital divide, which exacerbates economic disparities. Despite Spain's overall progress in digital adoption, stark contrasts persist, particularly between urban and rural areas, and across different socio-economic groups. Those in less affluent or rural settings often face barriers to accessing the internet and digital technologies, limiting their opportunities for digital literacy. This digital divide not only impedes job opportunities but also hinders educational pursuits and deepens socio-economic disparities, disproportionately affecting women. To address these challenges, Spain is implementing strategies aimed at narrowing this digital divide. These initiatives focus on expanding digital literacy and ensuring equitable access to technological advancements, with the ultimate goal of fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Demand for engineering and production professionals, especially in manufacturing, is also rising. Despite high employment rates for graduates in fields like electronics and industrial engineering, over 94% in 2014, the annual supply of such graduates is only about 14,000. Plugging the gap in productive industries like these would also help Spain increase its economic longevity by creating further growth. Efforts are being made by the Ministry of Labour and Social Economy and the Ministry of Education and Vocational Training to better anticipate skills needs and align training with industry requirements. Despite these issues, many Spanish citizens in major cities like Madrid and Barcelona are employed in highly skilled jobs and receive incomes in line with that of other major European cities. But the wealth and job opportunity is not shared equally across the country. Spain's regional economic divide is a significant issue, characterized by stark differences in wealth and development between various parts of the country. One of the primary causes of this divide is the concentration of industrial and service sectors in certain regions like Madrid and Catalonia, which are more economically developed. These areas benefit from higher investments, better infrastructure, and more job opportunities, leading to stronger economies. In contrast, regions such as Extremadura and Andalusia have traditionally relied on agriculture which contributes less to the GDP and often offers lower wages. This disparity is evident in the GDP per capita figures. Madrid enjoys a GDP per capita of around 35,000 euros, while Extremadura's is about 18,000, almost half of Madrid's. Another issue contributing to Spain's regional economic divide is the uneven distribution of resources and public services. More prosperous regions have better access to education, healthcare, and transportation, which in turn attract more businesses and skilled workers. This cycle perpetuates the economic disparity. For example, unemployment rates vary significantly. As of 2021, Andalusia had an unemployment rate of around 20%, while in the Basque Country, it was just under 10%. Such disparities highlight the challenges in achieving balanced economic development across Spain. The significant regional economic divide not only impacts the livelihoods of people in less developed regions, but also poses challenges for national unity and social cohesion. This divide has been further worsened by the pandemic, with regions specializing in tourism being particularly hard hit. This study looked to measure the impact of the pandemic on regional inequality, estimated that the percentage of workers falling below the poverty line has increased across all Spanish regions, with tourism-focused regions, the Balearic Islands and the Canary Islands, and less educated regions experiencing the most significant rise in poverty levels, creating further regional disparities likely to perpetuate the existing divides between regions. However, these divides look likely to persist, especially when external factors are taken into account. As we saw from the aftermath of the pandemic and financial crash, the Spanish economy is especially vulnerable to large shocks, which significantly disrupt its economy. Something which looks to cause further shocks in the coming years are rising temperatures as a consequence of climate change. Europe has been seeing widespread temperature increases for a number of years, and this looks likely to have an effect on the Spanish economy too. A striking example is the agricultural sector, which contributes around 2.6% to Spain's GDP and employs around 4% of the workforce, especially in less affluent regions. Rising temperatures and decreased rainfall is expected to reduce crop yields by up to 30%, in some regions by 2050, according to the Spanish Office of Climate Change. This reduction could lead to significant job losses in rural areas and increase regional economic disparities. In terms of tourism, which accounts for about 11% of Spain's GDP and employs around 13% of the workforce, the impact is also noteworthy. The number of heatwave days in Spain has doubled since the 1980s. Projections suggest that the country could experience up to 5 times more heatwave days by 2050 under a high greenhouse gas emissions scenario. This increase in temperature could reduce the appeal of Spain as a summer tourist destination, potentially leading to a decrease in tourist numbers and revenue. Coastal tourism is particularly at risk, with sea levels around Spain projected to rise by up to 60 centimeters by 2100, threatening beach erosion and damaging coastal infrastructures. The regional economic divides are underscored by varying climate impacts across Spain. The southern region of Andalusia, which is already experiencing water scarcity, could see its water availability reduced by an additional 25% by 2040, affecting both agriculture and tourism. In contrast, regions in northern Spain might experience less severe impacts, potentially leading to an uneven distribution of economic growth and investment. This geographical disparity in the impacts of climate change could exacerbate existing economic divides, posing a significant challenge for national and regional policymaking. The stark contrast in climate impacts across regions underscores the urgent need for adaptive strategies to ensure equitable economic development across Spain. So where does this leave the southern European nation? Spain's government is implementing various policies to address economic challenges. These include labour market reforms to reduce dependency on temporary contracts and enhance job opportunities for vulnerable groups. Additionally, strategies are in place to bridge the digital divide by improving digital literacy and access. Furthermore, Spain is focusing on fiscal discipline and social cohesion through its Agenda for Change, emphasizing training and human capital development. The government also plans to utilize European funds effectively and address supply-side issues in key sectors. As we've seen, Spain's journey through economic challenges is marked by its vulnerability to external factors, a reality shared by many nations. Yet, the success of Spain's economic policies, while not guaranteed, holds potential for positive change. The government's efforts, combined with the resilience and innovation within Spain, could pave the way for a more stable and prosperous future. As Spain continues to navigate these complexities, its adaptability to both internal reforms and external pressures will be crucial. The path ahead is uncertain, but it's in the hands of policymakers, businesses, and citizens to shape a more robust economy for Spain.